Just for my understanding, my purification, he's founder of Holy Festival, Festival of Colors, and he has done like mainly in Utah, where I got more than 40,000. Let me repeat, more than 40,000 people in that space. And he's doing these festivities across US, many cities. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for allowing us to be part of this amazing festival where everyone is happily enjoying Ethan playing colors and very clean festival. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your support. Um, Prabhuji's initiated, he's a direct disciple of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, was initiated in 1970 when he was not even born at that time. He has been president of Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Berkeley USA Temple. He started BBT Library Party in 1976. He was life membership director in Los Angeles for 10 years, BTs. He and his wife Mataji, Baby Mataji, founded KHQ1 Radio in Spanish Fort, Utah, and later in the new Kusum Sarovar Temple there. And he's also co-founder of Shri Radha Krishna Temple in Spanish Fort in Salt Lake City, Utah. He gives regular Sunday Peace classes and on Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam on this radio channel. It's an honor to welcome Sharu. Let's chant one time, no, three times Haribol from bottom of our heart to express with this gratitude and our appreciation for Prabhuji just for being here.
Haribo! 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 Om Ganati Manandasyanganangana Salakya Chaksurin Miritam Yanatashmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yanabhutare Sayam Rupakaram Darati Soprantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagaritam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Samsadevam Sadvaitam Sabarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shibhishakan Vitam Shah Maum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Tinaman Namaste Sarasati Devi Guruvani Pajarini Nirvishes Sanvari Praskata Desara Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrindam. Just a comment about yours. I had nothing. I didn't lift a finger to help. You did all the work to make it happen. But strategically, yesterday's special color was groundbreaking for me because as Vibhu Chaitanya told me, Yugal Kishore went to him earlier and said, please, no Bollywood. Bollywood's what people like. They like the beats. They like it. It engages people in a way that devotional music doesn't always do so. But you found the mix. You actually found a perfect balance between the beats and the moves, which everybody likes to do, and the devotion. I learned a lot. Yesterday was a real enlightening day for me because I've always used the Bollywood to get the people, and then you give the message. But Vibhu Chaitanya showed me, and I had an inkling of it last year when I saw him and his wife. That's why I invited them to come to Spanish Fork. And last year in March, of all the performers that we had, I noticed the ones that most perfectly blended the devotion and the interaction were he and his wife. That's why I invited them, and they did not disappoint. But I noticed that you did it with the other dancers too. Every single performer that came on stage, in addition to Vibhu Chaitanya and Priyamohini, they also had that mood, that the devotion, the lyrics were Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all of our devotional Narottam Das Thakur, but at the same time, it was very engaging. So I'm going to take what I've learned here and go back to Spanish Fork, but I'm still going to lean on Vibhu Chaitanya and his wife to come next, Mark, and lead the charge. All right. So you probably heard this term. I just picked it up for a theme. Can you say with me, it's all good? It's all good. It's all good. That's the subject matter of our talk today. No matter how successful you are in life, there are going to be challenges. Not everything's roses, even for those people at the top. Everybody's going to encounter struggles, different times when you don't understand why it's happening. Things are not going my way. Even in Krishna consciousness, we think, Krishna, it's for you. Why are you making it so difficult? But behind the pushback, behind the challenges, behind the adversities, we need to know one thing. It's all good because Krishna has his plan. With Krishna in the center of our lives, we can face adversity and see perhaps even more meaning in the times when things don't go our way than we do in the times when things go our way. Because Krishna is more interested in what's happening to you while you're doing a project than he is in when that project gets completed and how successful that is. This is a personal relationship we're talking about Krishna. So Krishna is always more interested in what's going on with you than he is in what you're doing to change the external world, even if you're working as a missionary to make the world more Krishna conscious. Krishna's priority, who's in your heart, is to work on you while you're working on the project. And Krishna knows everything about your life. He's in your heart. He knows how your food is digested. He knows how many hairs you have on your head. He knows what the dead ends, the cul-de-sacs are down the road. Some of you young teenagers, you might think you have a girl picked out. She's so attractive and so outgoing, so vivacious, and you think, I won't be able to spend the rest of my life without having her as my spouse. And your heart is set on it. Your mother is not quite there yet. Something happens, she jilts you. You feel like your life is over. You don't know how you can go on. That's it. That's all she wrote. But Krishna sees Vedaham Samadhi Tani Vart. He sees everything, past, present, and future. He sees 30 years down the road when that girl who you thought you couldn't live without is now on her third marriage. And you married someone who didn't have the sizzle factor, didn't have as much good looks, wasn't quite as popular, more plain. But how you love her now after decades of marriage, how deeply you love her. And you say to Krishna, thank you, Lord. You saved me from that one. Krishna knows the roads that if you take them, they're going to cause you heartache and pain. Life is full of things that we don't like adversities, disappointments, betrayals, challenges, unfair situations. You didn't get the promotion that you deserve. The door is slammed in your face. Normally, we see these things as being not good. But our theme today is that it's all, in fact, good. Things that didn't work out, instances when your prayers didn't get answers. Most people without a Krishna conscious training would get all discouraged at the frustration of their desires. They would lose their zest. Their passion would be deflated. But I'm here tonight, this afternoon, to tell you that Krishna would not have allowed that adversity unless he was going to use it to do a good within you. That means that everything that happens in life, you may not understand it. It may be more difficult than you thought. You may not get the result that you'd hoped for, but if you do one thing, which is keep the right attitude, I guarantee you, it will push you further towards your destiny. It will strengthen you. It will mature you. It will play its part in making you the women and men of faith that Krishna created you to be. That means the closed doors, the delays, the people that did you wrong. Krishna is saying to you today, it's all good. Krishna's still on the throne. He's still in control. It may not feel good to you now in the moment, but if you'll trust him, then that trust is what's going to enable Krishna to use that negative situation for your own good. And when you understand this principle that when we come out of that dark situation, and whether we come out of that dark situation and how we come out of that dark situation depends upon how we react to it. It depends on our attitude in the middle of that dark situation. Prahlad Maharaj, in a purport, 7th canto, Prabhupada says, one has to become an advanced devotee. Tato ni kampanam shushamiksham vanjatme pa vidadan kripadbid here, jibeta yo mukti or bhakti padasadaya bhak. When others are saying they're a Krishna devotee, how did that sickness come upon them? How did that betrayal happen? How did they lose their job? How did Krishna allow this to happen? Arjuna lost his son on the battlefield of Kurukshetra while Krishna was personally present. People say, how does this kind of thing happen to a devotee of Krishna? What they think is unfair, the devotee of Krishna has a different attitude. Had I not been engaged in devotional service, it would have been much worse. If I were to actually get the full harvest, the full fruit of my sinful activities, it would have been much worse than it actually is. Yan labda chaparan manyate narikam tada. Devotee is defined as that in the midst of what others would call the greatest calamity, the greatest setback, he feels Krishna's just touching me. Krishna's touch is feather-like. It's light. It should have been much greater, but Krishna has pulled his punches and toned down. Krishna is in charge. Everything's happening. Even if I'm in an adverse situation, I don't feel that situation as being unfair. I don't see that situation as being outside of the plan or the influence of the Lord. This is what the meaning of surrender is. Taking adverse situations as the mercy of Krishna. Some of us, we think we're surrendered because we've got a good house, we've got good children, we've got a good income, we've got a good job. We get to come to a good temple on Sunday and associate with good people and eat good prasadam. Well, it's pretty easy to be surrendered when you have all those pluses. But what about when things aren't so good? Then what's the level, what's the state of your surrender to Krishna? Are you seeing everything as the mercy of Krishna? And if you aren't, I guarantee you're stuck. You need to take inventory. And if you are, I'll give you another guarantee. You're going back to home, back to Godhead. Jiveti yo mukti padasadavaya. Those who take everything, it's all good as the mercy of Krishna, are already liberated. They're already liberated. It's just a formality. And they leave this body. They go back home, back to God. Well, that means a devotee, a God-certain person doesn't get upset when a coworker snubs you or plays office politics because they know it's all good. Krishna would not have allowed it unless he was going to use it for a good purpose. You tried and your business just didn't get off the ground. It didn't make it. A devotee doesn't give up on their dreams. They don't throw in the towel, the first reverse. They know that it's all good. It's all part of the process, building me up, strengthening me muscles, getting me prepared for the influence and the responsibilities and the blessings that Krishna has in mind for me in the future. If this present adversity didn't happen, I wouldn't be able to shoulder the future positions of influence and responsibility that Krishna is grooming me for. And even little simple things like getting caught in traffic, getting a little spat with your wife. Devotees don't let the little things ruin their days because they know that Krishna is directing their steps. How many times yesterday I came in from the airport, I was going to Shmita Krishna's house, and what is it, 275 north? It's a 17-mile stretch. I did 17 miles at 5 miles an hour. Srinivas Krishna's calling me up every 5 minutes. Where are you? Where are you? I'm 20 feet away from where I was when you called me 5 minutes ago. They had 3 lanes close. And you know, most places they have trucks. You want to paint those white lines? They have trucks, right? They do it at 2 o'clock in the morning and they do it 1 lane at a time. So instead of having 3 lanes closed, you only have 1 lane closed and 3 lanes open. And the truck does it. I don't know what it is about Michigan, but they had these guys, I think they were convicts or something, and they were doing it by hand. and they're going about 1 mile per week. And all I could see, 17 miles of driving, 3 lanes closed. All I could see at all of that towards the end, there was nothing. I said, why do they have 3 lanes closed? There's nothing going on. You know, towards the end, the last mile, they had like 6 guys with paintbrushes painting on things. So why doesn't the devotee get frustrated? Because Krishna's teaching me patience. You know, and the GPS says you're still on the shortest route. It's going to take 3 days, but you're still on the shortest route. But what if the GPS said there's another route, and if you take a left here and a right there and you go 85 miles an hour, you'll be there in 5 minutes. However, had that been available, I might have gotten into a fatal car accident and never arrived at all. So what does that mean? It's all good. And whatever it is, keep the right perspective, knowing that it's all good. And what does this boil down to? What are we saying? Trust Krishna. Trust him. Especially when you don't understand why things are the way they are. They don't make sense to you. You can't figure it out. But our job is not to figure it out. Our job is to just trust Krishna. You try to figure it out, you'll get frustrated. Krishna consciousness, it's like getting a contract. It's blank. There's only one thing on it. It's a place for your signature. Normally with anybody else, you say, no, I want to see the contract. I want to see all the items. I want to especially read the small print. If you don't ask for all of that, you're going to get cheated. I will guarantee you get cheated. But Krishna consciousness, he's asking you to sign the contract first, then he's going to fill in the details of it. If you say, Krishna, I want to know what trials you're going to put me through, what are the dates I go into them, what are the natures of it, what's the date I'm going to come out, what I'm going to learn from it, there's no room for trust there. You'll never develop your faith. You'll never get spiritual power. But Krishna is known for being less than straightforward. He says to Arjuna, because no one's going to believe me, you declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So Krishna will never tell you up front, right out, what is in your future, because the purpose of that is that you develop faith. And for developing faith, the best method are things that you don't understand. Krishna is showing his mercy on us in a greater way when we have no clue. We don't see a way out. Seems like we're outnumbered. The odds are against us. That means that Krishna is about to do something great in your life, but you just have to do one thing. You have to trust him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You might have some Krishna conscious plan, and you really think that it should happen now, and you're working hard towards that. But it's not happening, it's not happening, it's not happening. Say, Krishna, there's so much good. There'll be so many people benefited if we can just have this festival or do this or open this temple or whatever it is. And it doesn't seem to be happening. Well, the point is that if it were to happen right now, it would not be the best thing for you. He's going to wait until you're ready to handle it, and then it'll fall into place. Many of you are parents. So your child came up to you. They really wanted this, and they want it now. And you don't have any objection, particularly to their having it, but they're too young. They're too young. And so you say, not yet. Not yet. How many times has the child heard that as a no and threw a tantrum, banged their head on the floor, started punching you and all? You basically agreed. You agreed, but because you're older and wiser and you have the child's benefit at heart more than the child does, you're going to put it off until such time it's actually going to do the child good, because you know if the child got it now, it would be more harmful than good. But the child hears no. So how many times we get frustrated, we lose our enthusiasm, we get all down and discouraged because it's not happening now. But Krishna is not saying no, he's saying not yet. It's a good plan, it will happen, but you're not ready yet to manage it properly. You know, Yudhishthira was the most pious, righteous leader in the world. I can't think of any reason why he couldn't have been king right away. Can you? Can you? But Krishna knows more about Yudhishthira than Yudhishthira knows about himself. So Krishna's plan was 13 years. 13 years in the forest, associating with the saints and sages, hearing all the Puranas. And so he would become enriched, you see, further enriched. This is what he would not have gotten had he been the king without adversity. And when he finally did become the king, he was a much better king for it. So Krishna never said Yudhishthira shouldn't be the king, far from it. He just said, not yet. And you know, Yudhishthira, he didn't get all bombed out, down and dirty. Krishna, why didn't you do things my way? Well, because I'm God and you're not. God doesn't take orders from. How many times do we get discouraged or even leave Krishna conscious because God didn't follow my order? How ridiculous is that? And yet we see this play out almost on a daily basis. On a daily basis. At work, maybe the boss is getting on your nerves every day. He just rubs you the wrong way. And you keep trying to pray him away. You hope he gets transferred, or you hope you get a better job offer. But the reason the boss is not going away is because Krishna is using him like sandpaper to rub off the rough edges off of you. Even though he does get on your nerves, if you keep doing the right thing, be the best that you can be at your job. Get there 15 minutes early, leave 15 minutes later, and nobody's going to check on you because you're working from home. I know that. Keep being respectful. Now Krishna is free to do a work in you. And we cannot develop our characters without these negative situations. You may not like it. It may be uncomfortable, inconvenient, but it's all good. It's getting you ready for the next level. So Krishna is asking you this afternoon, do you trust me? Oh, we trust Krishna with open doors, but Krishna's question this afternoon is, do you trust him with the closed doors? Do you trust him not just with the answered prayers, but do you trust him with the unanswered prayers? Do you trust him not just with the things you understand, but the things you don't understand? The Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footstep on the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his never-failing will. You fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are full with mercy and will break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to scan his work in vain, but God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. Krishna's ways may twist and turn, my heart may throb and ache, but my soul is no concern because he makes no mistake. My sacred plans may go astray, my hopes may fade away, but you know what? I'll still trust in him to lead because he knows the way. Though the night be dark and the light take forever to break, I'm going to go along with him because he makes no mistake. There's so much I cannot see. My eyesight far too dim. Who am I to disagree? I'm going to go along with him. By and by, the mist will lift and the foggy night will fade and the rising sun will make it plain. He made not one single solitary mistake. When you develop this unflinching trust in Krishna, when you let go and let God, when you know that it's all good, it's good if the door opens, but it's even better if the door slams in our face. We still thank him. We still acknowledge that whatever happens, he knows how to turn it around and use what was meant for our harm into our good. And we all know it's easy to trust Krishna when we know we're blessed. It's easy in an environment of devotees. It's easy with a good job and all. But we're talking about trusting Krishna when things happen that we don't understand. When we find ourselves, for instance, in a family in which there's constant bickering, dysfunction, then it's not so easy to praise Krishna. It's not so easy to praise Krishna if you lose your job and you rank yourself amongst the unemployed. It's not easy to praise Krishna after you've been through a divorce. It's not easy to praise Krishna when you've been in an accident and become physically handicapped. It's not easy to trust Krishna when a routine visit to the doctor comes up with a diagnosis for a life-threatening disease. It's not easy to trust Krishna when you're old and full of aches and pains, and maybe you're put into an assisted living facility where you're more or less forgotten. Even your family members visit you infrequently. It's not easy to praise Krishna when our daylight hours become almost nightmarish. But the fact is that between adversity and between blessings, there's not a fine line. There's a lot of overlap between the one and the others. It's impossible to see where the one starts and the other stops. They're mingled together into one harmonious pattern. But here's the conclusion that we need to come to. We need to praise Krishna not only for our blessings, but for our adversities as well. How many of you know who Helen Keller was? Blind, deaf, and mute. You think you got it bad? You're having a pity party? Helen Keller, blind, deaf, and here's what she said in her autobiography. I am so grateful for my handicaps, for through them, I found myself, my work, and my God. And she continues, all things, not just some things, but she says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. They may not seem good at the time. They may be incredibly painful. The loss of a loved one, for instance, a betrayal by those whom we trusted, the discouragement that comes in the wake of a dream that didn't pan out. By itself, any one of these things may, in fact, not be good. But Krishna is promising you today that if you turn it over to him, keep a good attitude, that one day your time will come, your season will come. One day you'll look back on that and you'll say, it was all good. I heard about this couple for many years. They used to volunteer at the hospital, doing whatever was needed, bringing gifts, cheer to the suffering people in the hospital. One year, the husband had parked his car in the parking lot and was crossing over, Someone came barreling around the corner, went through a stop sign, hit the husband. He flew up over the car, landed behind the car. Krishna, why? Why? Good Samaritans. Why? The good news is he was right there at the emergency room. So they rushed him in. They took all kinds of scans to see if there hadn't been bleeding in the head. And then they found out there wasn't bleeding in the head. And they thought, well, as long as we've got him here, we'll scan the rest of his body too. In the full body scan, they found a malignant tumor on his liver, which was just on the cusp of metastasizing and going throughout his body. Any day now, the doctor said, it could have spread throughout his body and would have become inoperable. They took that tumor out, and he lived to do more service at the hospital for many, many more years. So isn't that interesting? We would have called him such a bad luck fellow for getting run over by a car. That would have been, by all of our standards, he would be a loser. It would be a catastrophe. That's all she wrote. And yet, when we hear the full story of what Krishna had in mind and how it all played out, we can only come up with one conclusion. It's all good. And it may sound strange, praising Krishna in adversity. There's a story on some devotees were on the roof of the Lotus building. And one lady, very well-to-do lady, who used to come up on the boat, come to the Mayapur temple every weekend from Calcutta. She was a happy, jolly lady. So they heard that she'd lost her son. And the next Saturday, they saw her coming in with some friends and all, and she was smiling and very good mood. And they said, well, the news must have been inaccurate. It must have been untrue. But in fact, she had lost her son. But she was exercising this principle. I'm going to trust Krishna. I'm going to trust Krishna. Our friend Prafulananda, make it a little closer to home. How many of you know Atarva? 23 years old. Never sick a day in his life. Never had a day of sickness. He went to Mayapur, holy place. He called his dad. Dad, I have a pain. You probably all know this, right? I don't have his permission to tell this story, so I hope I'm not overstepping myself. But it's something that you all shared. It's a grief that you all shared, and you know. And they wanted to take some semen. This is standard. He only had a few days to live, and they wanted to take some semen for the bank to perpetuate the line, and the father was in favor of it. When they asked Atarva, he said, no, Dad. No, Dad. He said, I've never passed in my life, not even accidentally. I don't want to do it now. Does anybody understand any of that? Why? I don't. Certainly, Prafulananda didn't understand. But I visited him in Texas recently, and the former president there, Sham, his name just escapes me. What is his name? Shamasundar. Shamasundar gets up at 2 o'clock in the morning and chants 64 rounds on Zoom. Prafulananda told me, I'm with him every day. I'm with him every day. And my chanting is much better than it's ever been. And when I think of that loss, that inexplicable loss of a nice, sticky cow, someone, a nice, sticky brahmachari in Kali Yuga, when I think of that, it intensifies my chanting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, when we praise Krishna, no matter what, especially in adversity, we're placing that adversity in the hands of a loving and caring Krishna who alone has the power to transform. No other living being, not Brahma, not any demigod, not any sage or saint, no one else has Krishna's power to transform bad into good. Now that makes sense to me. Krishna is the only answer to transforming adversity into something that can and will work. Even things that seem at the moment bad. Getting hit by a car while doing welfare work at the hospital, most people would say, boy, that was unlucky, too bad for you. But Krishna doesn't allow anything, especially for his devotees, that he can't bring good out of it. And maybe you've been working for a long time on a project and you think it should have happened years and years ago. It hasn't come together in spite of your best efforts. This is where faith comes in. This is where, especially, you dig in your heels and you don't allow yourself to get discouraged because you know Krishna knows what he's doing. You just do your part, keep honoring him, doing your best, and eventually your season will come and Krishna will open doors that no man can shut. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sometimes Krishna will challenge you on the job. You don't like the people at work. They're negative. They gossip. They compromise. Krishna, why did you put me in this terrible negative association? Krishna, please move me out. Get me somewhere else. But Krishna has you there on purpose. He has you there on purpose so that you can let your light shine. He has you on their purpose. He's counting on you to change them, to be a good influence on them. Have you heard about the thermometer and thermostat analogy? Some people are like the thermometer. They go into the room, everyone's gossiping, compromising, criticizing. So they just become like that. They just go along to get along. Some people are like thermostats. People are gossiping, complaining, bitter. Someone walks in the room, they're a devotee, they're bright-faced, they're shining. What they do is they change the temperature. They change the whole atmosphere and attitude of the room. So you might consider that that's why Krishna has you in that work environment with those co-workers, because he wants you to shine your light on them and make a difference. So why don't you embrace where you are? At least for the time being. You may be overqualified, you may be destined for something down the road, but right now, bloom where you're planted. Make the best of the situation. Krishna has you there, not randomly, not by accident, but he has you there on purpose. Keep a good attitude, knowing this secret. It's all good. It's not working against you, it's working for you. Brief story from the Ramayana. What could be worse? Ram was forced into exile. What a turnabout. What a reversal. He's supposed to be coronated as the king on the following day. Instead, he finds himself out somewhere in exile, sleeping on the ground, making do. Not only that, but after a couple of days of traveling, wherever they had situated, Bharat comes to him. Bharat, with thousands and thousands of soldiers, thousands and thousands of citizens, they all present themselves before Ram. And like a thunderbolt, Bharat just comes right out with it. Our father is dead. Ram looks at everyone. You imagine if you got that news just without any preparation or any advance notice, you would lose it. We would all lose it. But Ram looked at the citizenry, he looked at the soldiery, he looked at Bharat, and he said, they need me to be strong in this moment. They cannot see me give way to grief right now. Maybe later, but not right now. So he tamped down his grief for the sake of his citizens and for the sake of his brothers, and he spoke to them words to the effect that it's all good. This is what I think of as the Ramayana's version of the Sermon of the Mount. Ram says to all those assembled citizens, to Bharat, no man is free in his life. In this world, the embodied soul is dragged here and there by the all-powerful force of time, and no one can control that force. Ram says, all gains will end in loss. Every meeting ends in separation, every birth ends in death. It says the passing of our days and nights quickly burn up. They quickly exhaust what little lifespan we have, just as the summer sun will evaporate all the water in a small lake or pond. Ram says, you should not grieve. You should grieve, not for Dasarath, but you should grieve for yourself. Why do you grieve for another? For each and every one of us, death is our constant companion. Death walks with us. Death sits with us. And having gone a long distance to a distant place, death has traveled with us. And when we come home, death returns along with us. We ourselves have embarked on the very same path trodden by our father Dasarath, and we will meet the same end in due course of time. So therefore, we should not grieve for Dasarath, but we should do our duties. Bharat, you should go back and rule the kingdom, and I will remain 13 years in exile. And therefore, by pursuing righteousness and doing our duties, we will all follow in the footsteps of Dasarath, and we will eventually join him in the hereafter. And thousands of people are sitting there, their ears cocked. Not even a bird is cheeping. Even the wind has ceased and desist. There's not even the rustling of leaves in the tree. So all those bad breaks that fell one in another after the feet of Ram, we see from reading the entirety of the Ramayana, from its inspirational force that's lasted over thousands and thousands of years, we see that those setbacks that befell Ram, one after another, were all part of a divine plan of the Lord for him to get Ram, the citizens and his dependents, to where they were supposed to be. And in the moment, Kaikeyi's betrayal felt bad, but the truth is, we look back on that and we say, it's all good. Just another step on the way to our destiny. We didn't like it. It was disappointing at the time, but when we look back, we wouldn't change a thing. It was just another step on the way to our becoming who we were meant to be. One other point, sometimes Krishna uses our enemies as a source of inspiration. I was president of the San Francisco Temple for several years, and it's the duty of the president of the San Francisco Temple to organize the annual Chariot Festival. I think they're having it this weekend, or they just had it last weekend in Golden Gate Park. So in 1977, I'd hired a bagpipe band to go in front of the procession and play. And I happened to be standing nearby when I heard one bagpiper say to the other bagpiper, how did we end up playing for the Lunatic Fringe? And his friend answered by saying, I don't know, I guess their money is green as well. So that hurt me. You know, just like I imagine Dhruva was hurt, you know, when his Saruchi said, you know, take your next birth from my womb. You know, I had ambitions for Krishna consciousness to spread and have an influence all over the world. And to hear those people speak in such a demeaning and insulting, negative way about something that I loved and about my ambitions for Krishna consciousness, it was, you know, I wanted Krishna consciousness to spread. I wanted to be influential. But hearing those words made something happen. Something hardened within me. I have to thank them for that. Now we have a radio station that's heard all over the world. We built 2 temples in Utah from the ground up, beautiful temples. We have the largest color festival in North America. There are tour buses almost every day, kids, high school, junior high school, elementary school. And it's all my way of responding to those insulting, critical words of those people. It's my way of taking their words and shoving them back down their throats. And I have to thank them for that. I was already on the path, but they precipitated such determination. You know, they insulted me and the things that I love personally, that they actually gave rise to a chemical reaction that made me unstoppable, you might say. If I ever meet them again, I'll have to do something nice for them, like maybe take them out for a veggie burger or something like that. Let me just finish up. I've gone on a long time because it's a great topic, never gets stale. But let's just take one last example. We'll finish up. Take the example of Vritrasura. Talk about someone who was treated unfairly. You all know this story. He was a demigod, Chitraketu. He saw Lord Shiva with Parvati on his lap. Shiva was speaking philosophy with the beautiful Uma on his lap. And out of appreciation, Chitraketu just laughed. Sometimes people just, we all know people. They don't know what to do and they laugh. They get this nervous laugh. We think, what are they laughing about? It's just a nervous. It was appreciation, but Parvati misunderstood it, and she cursed him to take birth as a demon. Big, powerful demon to create havoc in the universe, after which he would be reinstated. And so in order to bring about his death, to shorten the time when he was to live as a demon, he did his very best to create havoc in the universe. Topsy-turvy, defeating the demigods, upsetting the order, and so on and so forth. Finally, the demigods appealed to Lord Vishnu. What can we do to get rid of this demon? And then the Narayana Kavacha was given to Indra. His Vajra, his thunderbolt, was strengthened by the bones of Dadichi. He was blessed with Lord Vishnu. So they faced each other. And initially, Indra had good luck. He cut off one of the arms of Vritrasura. He's bleeding. His arm is lying severed on the ground. He's essentially been defeated, but still, some or other, Vritrasura is so big and so ferocious that Indra just has second thoughts. At a time when Indra should be pushing forward with great zest and enthusiasm, Indra loses his nerve. When he has every reason to be encouraged, he's just on the cusp of victory, he loses it for some reason. And when Vritrasura has every reason to be down and discouraged and defeated, he is up. He's up. And it ends up that it is Vritrasura losing one arm, lying on the ground, who has to give Indra a pep talk. He has to show his light to Indra to get Indra to finish it up, finish what you started. My death will be glorious. So at a time which we would call the most defeated, the most depressed, the most humiliated, Vritrasura was at his best in adversity. And when things are going his way, he had the backing of Vishnu and the demigods and the Narayan Kavacha and the Diji's bones and the most powerful weapon, the thunderbolt. Indra couldn't take the adversity. He couldn't take the heat. He couldn't take the pressure. It was Vritrasura. It was his finest moment. So when Krishna, after everything's said and done, vindicates you, when Krishna heals you, when your time comes and your season arrives, when Krishna promotes you, as he did with Yudhishthira, as he did with Vritrasura, when he restores you, when he prepares a table for you, as he did with Yudhishthira, in the presence of your enemies, when he pays you back double for that victory, for that betrayal, for that disease, for that reversal, that's when defeat will turn into victory. And so we're asking you this afternoon to just do one thing. Trust him. Even if today is a dark day in your life, even if today there's no reason to call the things that are happening to you good, don't worry. Light is coming. If you've kept Krishna first place, Krishna is still on the throne. Whatever it is you're dealing with, trouble in a relationship, a loss, an illness, people coming against you, you might feel dark, lonely, discouraged. You don't see how it could ever work out. But this practice of praising Krishna in adversity, as well as in times of blessing, is the key to going further, faster, to having doors open that no man can close. Concluding, Krishna is that strength which will never fail. Krishna, Krishna alone is going to give us the tools that we need to conquer any obstacle, to accomplish any task. Krishna and Krishna alone can give us the stamina and the courage to endure any amount of suffering. Krishna, Krishna alone can give us the light to find our way through the most dense, dread-filled darkness. Krishna, Krishna alone can give us the key that will unlock any door, even and especially the door to the spiritual kingdom, the door to a life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Therefore, in all times, in all places, in all circumstances, we should exercise our trust and faith in Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you for your kind attention. Any questions or comments? Yes. This looks like a coffee cup.
Thank you so much for such an enlightening talk, Prabhu, especially bringing your 50, 60 years of Krishna consciousness contained experience with us today. And especially talking about all is good. I'm just trying to clarify my understanding on that aspect. And I was just remembering what is the best way to portray that. If someone is knitting a beautiful sweater, from the top it looks very beautiful, but when we see from the down, it's like spaghetti. We can't figure out what's going on there. And from Krishna's perspective, all is good from a top perspective, saying that the sweater is being knit really beautiful. There are so many designs, so many carvings on that. Somehow I have a tendency to see it from down. Now the question is, my challenge is that if I see all is good, I become careless in my spiritual life. And I feel I will not take a Krishna conscious intensity. And the second aspect is the craving or yearning to go back to Godhead doesn't come until I get fed up with the material world. And if I think all is good, living in the material world, nothing is perfect, that's my realization. Or that's my understanding. How do I understand this aspect? Yes, Krishna is all merciful, definitely there. But if I live with that line, I can't practice Krishna consciousness intensity. I have to realize myself that there is nothing perfect in this material world. So how can I balance or how can I blend both the things? All is good at the same time practice Krishna consciousness intensity.
My life is but a weaving between my Lord and me. I cannot choose the colors, but he worketh steadily. He often weaves sorrow, and I in foolish pride forget he sees the upper, and I the underside. Not till the loom falls silent and the shuttle ceases to fly will Krishna unroll the canvas and reveal the reasons why. The dark threads are as needful in the weaver's skillful hand as are the threads of gold and silver in the pattern that he had planned. You know, we're talking about to a Krishna conscious audience. So we're assuming Krishna conscious, we're trying to raise Krishna conscious families, trying to be Krishna conscious in the workplace, make our lives Krishna conscious, spread Krishna conscious to our own ability. So in the effort, like I'll give you another example. My first devotee I met was a Pendra in Australia. He had been sent by Prabhupada to Australia to found the Krishna conscious mission. Prior to coming to Australia, he was Prabhupada's personal servant for 1 year. He and Prabhupada were like that. And he had started to think that Prabhupada couldn't cope without him to give the massage, without him to cook the meals, without him to iron the range. He had started to think that Prabhupada was dependent on him. And Prabhupada, like a bolt out of the blue, sent him to Australia. He thought, what did I do? What did I do? He thought he might have displeased Prabhupada. But actually, that was Prabhupada's mercy. That was Prabhupada's mercy to send him away because he needed that. That was like the doctor prescribing the bitter medicine. And it's often, you know it, neem and the bitter ones, turmeric, ginger, these are the ones that cure the diseases. So he came to Australia and he was devastated. He was just like a dead man walking, Prabhupada kicked me away, Prabhupada. And in order to console himself, to make himself feel better, he would talk about Prabhupada, tell stories. My wife and I were just coming to the temple at that time. Can you imagine how powerful that was? That chemistry of his being heartbroken and the only consolation would be to tell stories, intimate stories about Prabhupada, some of which have never even been published, to Chris and Christine, who are just coming to the temple. It's all good. And I think it's fair to say that during the time that Upendra was preaching in Australia before he went to, I can't say anything about, he went and opened up Fiji and eventually he passed away a number of years ago. But it seemed to me that while Upendra was doing his best, he was doing his best. I mean, he made us devotees. I think it's fair to say that he was pretty miserable, the time he was in Australia. And yet when he had a terminal illness, he only had a few months to live, he was in America. The Australian devotees brought him to New Govardhan, beautiful farm acre. They took care of him. And even today, he's like a god. He was all too human. I won't even tell you why he died. I won't even go. He was all too human. But he's like, without Upendra, there wouldn't be an Australian yatra. I wouldn't be here. So many devotees, Ramai Swami wouldn't be here. It all started with Upendra. And he's a legend in Australia. And it all came out of his own personal challenges. So if your ambitions, your dreams are material, Krishna may never satisfy them. We're not saying that Krishna's, or he may satisfy them up to a point, but he loves you too much to keep doing that. Ultimately our path is having things taken away. But the trust comes in when you know that for everything Krishna takes away, for every $5 Krishna takes away, or that we, better yet, voluntarily, with a good attitude, let go of, Krishna will give $1 million on the other side. For every yard of sari that Dushasana pulls off, Krishna will supply 20 yards on the other side. So I hope that helps a little bit. I have no idea what the time is, whether we're way over or short or whatever. So I don't know. 5 minutes? 12 minutes, okay. Some more questions then?
Thank you for the wonderful classes in the morning and now. Okay, I would like to know, what should be, or the standard sadhana and seva levels, so that whatever you mentioned in the morning, like it takes 40 years for us to attain perfection, but within this short span of lifetime we have, what do you recommend based on your experience? How should we chanting more?
Well, I mean, I can speak personally that the service is key for me. There are 80 some items of devotional service in the Nectar Devotion. If you read through them, see if there's one that your heart starts beating a little faster in connection with, and you can reach out to the devotees that have been doing that for a long time, seek their association. You can do that online now. Seek their association, get that sangha. I think the single most helpful thing one can do is try to identify what you really enjoy doing. And as I said this morning, anything you do, if you do it long enough, you will relish it. You will develop a taste for it. And of course, what to speak of it being for Krishna. Just thought of doing something for Krishna makes me want to serve unconditionally, because there isn't any item of service that's unpalatable. It's all pleasant, whether you're making flower garlands or cooking or dancing or doing music or anything special. It's all really, really good stuff. But having said that, if there's something that you particularly, get excited about, then try to sharpen that axe, you might say. Take seminars, take workshops, read books, associate with devotees. It's a different analogy, but this has to do with the impersonalist. But Prabhupada gave the example that just as a drop of water can be again extracted from the ocean, the sun beats down and it evaporates, and then it becomes a cloud and it goes in the river, and then it comes back, and then the drops of water are always being extracted. But the living entities have taken their forms, the tumangila, the whales, the sharks, the man, they can never be taken out. They're permanently in that environment. Nothing can extract them because they've got their forms. So if you're excited, if you bounce out of bed in the morning, not only to chant your rounds, not only attend a Mangal Arti, but also to do a particular type of service, and you're really good at it, and you can help other people, and you can also look to others that can help you. You serve your superiors, you teach your equals, and you become a teacher for those underneath you. If you can awaken that dynamic in your life, then you've got a whole wonderful 50, 60, 70 years ahead of you, doing good to you and doing good to others. So that's my own experience. Find the thumbprint of God. Find how God's thumbprint looks on you, and then sharpen that axe. There are doctors, there are all kinds of doctors. Doctor's a general title, but then there's specialists based on what they're interested in. Might be dermatology, might be gastroenteritis, might be internal medicine, might be pathology. And generally they're going to choose it. Hopefully they're going to choose it not just on which one pays the greatest salary, but which one they're generally interested in. They go there not just for the wage, but they go there because they're going to learn things, they're going to interact with patients, they're going to, whatever it may be. They're specialized. They're specialists. So we're generalists in that we all come together, we chant 16 rounds a day, we follow the regular principles, we observe the festivals. There's that general thing that we all do together, congregationally. But then I think Krishna has also made each and every one of us unique. He's also made us a specialist as well. So try and find out what that specialty is and develop it.
Can I ask one question? I would like to know from you, why sometimes we mention temples as yatras? What is the philosophy behind it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You mentioned temples as yatras.
Yatras?
Yeah. What is the philosophy behind that addressing?
Why we call temples yatras? Hopefully you're moving somewhere. You're going from a rented building to a purchased building. You're going from a vacant lot to a built from the ground up temple. You're starting Bhakti Vriksas, and you're going from one Bhakti Vriksha to 10, and then you're going from 10 to 100. You have a prasadam distribution program. You have a restaurant. You go from 20 customers a day to 30 customers a day. You go from having 500 people at Janmashtami to 5,000 people. I think you went probably from about 1,000 to 2,000 yesterday. From last year to this year, you probably had at least 50% more people at the Fest of Colors. To me, that's what yatra is. It's something that's never stuck. If you've been doing the same service year after year after year, and you're starting to take it for granted, you're starting to get bored by it, you need to get that yatra thing going. You need to get unstuck, get out of your rut, try something different, or try to learn more how to do what you're doing So you're not just sleepwalking through it. So you're doing it consciously and attentively and devotionally. I may be totally off base, but to me, yatra means movement. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for a wonderful class. I mean, we heard and we understand. Theoretically, it's all good. Krishna has always the best plan for us, what he's giving. He gave based on whether it's the right time for us to actually have that. So thank you very much for touching on those amazing examples. My question is more related to the festival that we had yesterday. So the Utah Festival is it's like the biggest in North America. So what originally inspired you? How did that begin for you? If you don't mind sharing.
I've done festivals for 50 years. I've done festivals wherever I've been, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Australia. And I found that for a festival, you need a hook. There has to be something that brings people in, captures their imagination. We did a festival of India for 37 years, and it was the burning of Ravan. And my wife made a big 20-foot high Ravan, and we burned it with spectacular fireworks, and we have a pageant of Ramayana. We did that for 37 years up until COVID. With Janmashtami, we have the Dahi Hundi. We have the Dahi Hundi. People like that. It's just something above and beyond darshan, lecture, kirtan. That's all good, but something extra, something special, And so it was inevitable that with this background, I would come to think about Festival of Colors. And I remember the first time I went to Mayapur, it coincides with Gaur Purnima. Prabhupada told us, don't go out in the street. So we all stayed inside while they did the colors outside. And what we knew of it, it was somewhat distasteful for me, the rowdiness and the disrespect and all. I didn't even like the way they did in India, but I thought, I could take this for Krishna. I could claim this for Krishna and do it in a way that would bring a lot of people. And then having brought a lot of people, I was pretty confident in my ability to introduce them to Krishna conscious principles and all, to introduce the philosophy. So we had our first color, we had it indoors. It was a mistake because I was cleaning with a toothbrush for 6 months afterwards, And for many years we had just maybe one devotee, Bankim, and then Jaikar. They would do kirtan, and sometimes only 2 or 3 would join them, and we'd have a bonfire with an effigy of Holika, and they would light the bonfire and throw the colors at the same time. We go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and then when we say Krishna or 0, then they light the bonfire and everyone dance and have kirtan. After a few years, I thought, if we're going to perpetuate this, we have to go beyond just the novelty of the colors. And so I thought then to make it a concert, to really spend some money and put some attention onto the music. So that's when I started to bring in mantra bands and DJs and things like that. And then it really got big. We from doing one color throw on a Saturday afternoon at 2:00, we went from a noon throw, a 2:00 throw, and a 4:00 throw. And it was different crowds. The noon crowd would come, throw the colors, go home. Be a 2:00 crowd, throw the colors, go home. Be 4:00. And then we went from an hourly color throw, 11, 12 on Saturday. And then we went from Saturday to a second day, Sunday. And the crowd just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I think it's just based on the confidence that if you can get people onto the property somehow or other, they'll be benefited rather than going to the movies or going to a mundane concert, Now after, and the thing is, when you do something, you don't do it perfectly. You make mistakes. Devotees say, well, Prabhupada never talked about the Festival of Colors, or how about the Bollywood and elements of it and so on and so forth. But the thing is, the only way you're going to learn is to do it and to make those mistakes. You know, it's the mistakes and the criticism that eventually get you to where you're supposed to be. In the meantime, it's 90% good, maybe 10% is unwanted, but you sacrifice the 10% for the 9. But now I'm seeing, to be honest with you, after yesterday, you can do it in a way that is 100% Krishna consciousness. It gets the interactivity that only Bollywood usually does, and make it all Krishna conscious. You know, people were dancing Bollywood style to Bhakti Vinod Thakur songs, which was absolutely. And the thing is, we wouldn't have gotten to that point by sitting behind our computer and theorizing. You know, I mean, I've done 100 color fests, and now I've arrived thanks to you guys and Vibhu Chaitanya. I don't know if I can convince I don't know if we can, you know, exercise all of Bollywood, but you know, now I know what the ultimate standard is, how to have 20,000 people on the property with no Bollywood at the same time, enthusiastic, full-fledged interaction. That's what we're going to work for. We may not achieve it next year, the next year, the next year, but now we know. And we wouldn't have had that vision if we hadn't already done 100 color festivals, improving and fine-tuning, you know, step by step by step. Well, thank you all also for teaching me a really, really valuable lesson, and pray that we can implement it with the help of Vibhu Chaitanya and his wife and their various expansions to come. Very well, very well.
Every aspect.
So that's it. We're done, I think. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Bol.
Sharu Prabhuji ki!